This Sunday, the Texans take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. This game will be their season home opener, their first game at NRG Stadium after that terrible, heartbreaking loss against New Orleans. Let's see how these Texans bounce back against a team that, in my opinion, they should easily beat. Now, the Jaguars, even though I'm saying the Texans should easily beat them, I'm not saying they don't have talent. They have a lot of good players, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They got players like Jalen Ramsey, AJ Bouye, Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, Miles Jack, Marcel Darius, and their first round pick from this year, Josh Allen, the edge rusher linebacker, not the terrible quarterback. So, they definitely have some talent. And then you also got to mention Leonard Fournette. I thought Leonard Fournette last week against the Chiefs, he looked really good. He looked better than he has ever, in my opinion. 2017, his rookie year, he was okay, but he was nothing too special. 2018 was a terrible year for him. But here in 2019, he looks lighter, he looks quicker, he looks more agile, and he just looks healthier, I guess you could say. So maybe Leonard Fournette can finally be that running back that the Jaguars drafted him to be, and that's a running back that's big and physical and can run over anyone and can just completely take over the game and crush the opponent's will. If you guys remember that first game we played against the Jaguars in 2017 when Fournette was a rookie, he was just trucking, running everyone over. Hopefully Leonard Fournette don't go back to that. Because if he does, then things could look bad for the Texans, especially considering how they looked last week with Alvin Kamara. But enough about the talented players that the Jaguars currently have on their roster. Let's talk about the one guy that the Jaguars currently don't have on their roster, and that is Nick Foles. Nick Foles suffered an injury week 1 in the first quarter. The Jaguars already placed him on IR. He's not done for the year. He's expected to be back at some point later in the season. I believe he has to miss 8 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, before they can bring him back. So I do think Nick Foles will come back, but Nick Foles will not be playing for this game versus the Texans. Instead, Gardner Minshew, a rookie 6th round pick, will be playing against the Texans. He is a starting quarterback, and last week, Minshew, I thought, looked really good. I believe he went 22 for 25, an 80-something completion percentage, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception for 270 yards, something around those lines. So he did pretty good coming in as a backup, getting thrown into the fire. But you also got to consider the Jaguars. They were playing the Chiefs. The Chiefs arguably have the worst defense in the NFL, so you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But regardless, Minshew had himself a pretty damn good game. And if you look at Gardner Minshew, I swear, man, the guy looks like a guy that would definitely somehow find a way to beat the Texans. The way I can see it is this guy beats the Texans, and then, 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about, hey, remember that guy Minshew, that ugly-ass guy? Remember when he beat the Texans? Ha ha ha. Yeah. The Texans better not, sleep on the Jaguars this week. They should win this game, but if they come in here slacking, Minshew will tear them up. Just look at them. Okay, but let's just get into these matchups. Let's start off with the Jaguars offense versus the Texans defense. Let's start off with the run game. The Jaguars did a good job running last week versus the Chiefs, in my opinion, but they did have to abandon the run game due to falling behind pretty early. I mean, Pat Mahomes scored a touchdown on them like a minute and like 30 seconds into the game on the third play of the game, given, Sammy Watkins pretty much did it all, but still pretty impressive by the Chiefs. But the Jags, like I said, I thought they did a good job. Leonard Fournette looked better, but they did have to abandon the run game pretty early, so their running stats probably don't look that good if you were to look at them. Now, the Texans, in the second half of last week's game against the Saints, they really struggled stopping the run. I mean, Kamara gashed them for long runs, and even Latavius Murray beat them for a 30-yard touchdown run. There is one in the second half, so the Texans' run defense, I'm not comfortable with it. That's why I think this matchup will be up and down. And the reason I think it'll be up and down is because of Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew isn't Drew Brees, so the Texans aren't going to have to worry about Minshew tearing them up through the air as much as Drew Brees did. And the Jaguars' offensive line is just nowhere near as good as the Saints' offensive line. The Jaguars' offensive line is pretty questionable. Their left tackle, Cam Robinson, he's out. The backup's no good. Their right guard is no good. Their right tackle, Jawan Taylor, I really liked him coming out of the draft, but he is a rookie, so you got to consider that. Andrew Norwell hasn't played that well for the Jaguars. He did play pretty decently last week, but for the most part, he hasn't played like the all-pro player that he was in Carolina. The only good guy on their O-line that's like a for sure thing is Brandon Linder. So their O-line nowhere near as good as the New Orleans O-line, so the Texans could possibly take advantage of that with some matchups. And then in the passing game, the Texans corners and the secondary in general as a whole is very, very suspect. I wouldn't even say they're suspect. I think the Texans secondary is complete trash. But to be fair, the Jaguars, they don't have any good wide receivers that can really expose the Texans DBs. They don't have a Michael Thomas. They don't have a Ted Ginn. They don't have Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. So I could see the Jaguars winning some little matchups here and there, but don't expect Gardner Minshew to tear up the Texans defense how Drew Brees did. In fact, what I was mentioning about the O-line, the Jaguars O-line, well, I totally expect J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless to feast on Minshew and make life very difficult for him. Overall, though, I see the passing game matchup being kind of even, but with the Texans having a slight edge due to the pass rush. Now let's move on to the Texans offense versus the Jaguars defense. In the run game, I thought the Texans did a very good job last week versus the Saints in running the football. Keep in mind that last year in 2018, the Saints had the top ranked running defense in the NFL. The Jaguars also last week against the Chiefs, I thought they did a good job of stopping the run for the most part. Besides, LaShawn McCoy, he had like 10 carries for 80 yards. I don't know what that was about, but that seemed kind of fluky to me in my opinion, so it'll be kind of hard to replicate something like that. But overall, I see the Texans winning the run game matchup because last week the run looked very good against a very stout defensive front, even though they were missing Sheldon Rankins. But you also got to keep in mind, Carlos Hyde has only been there a week. Duke Johnson's been here 3 weeks. Laramie Tunsil is still learning the offense. He's been here a week. Titus Howard should be back in the lineup. He's better than Sunil Kalametti. Nick Martin knocking off some rust. He was just coming off the whole offseason injury that he had. He didn't really practice at all during the offseason. And Zach Fulton also getting healthier. He's dealing with that turf toe issue he suffered in that Week 3 game against the Cowboys. Well, the preseason Week 3 game against the Cowboys. So he's still not 100%, but he's getting healthier. So the O-line should be better. And they were doing a very good job of creating holes for Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. And even Deshaun Watson had a nice little designed quarterback run there against the Saints. So maybe they get Deshaun Watson involved as well. But hopefully Deshaun Watson really protects himself this game. Now for the passing game. I see this being kind of an even matchup. Look, I think Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, and Kiki QT should be able to completely tear up the Jaguars DBs. Like, I 100% believe that. I know the Jaguars have Jalen Ramsey, and I really like Jalen Ramsey. I think Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in the NFL, but let's be real here. Ever since Deshaun Watson came into the league, there has not been a single corner that has been able to slow down DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins has torn up every single corner that he's lined up against ever since Deshaun Watson has been playing with him. I know Colts fans are going to say, "Oh, what about Pierre Desir?" Well, Colts fans, in that game, DeAndre Hopkins was playing with a messed up ankle and a torn shoulder thingy. So I wouldn't really consider Pierre Desir shutting down DeAndre Hopkins. That was more like DeAndre Hopkins' injury shutting down DeAndre Hopkins. So DeAndre Hopkins is going to beat Jalen Ramsey again. How he's been doing. AJ Boye, I love AJ Boye. I wish AJ Boye was still on the Texans, but AJ Boye has been struggling. He struggled last year. He struggled last week against the Chiefs. I expect them to struggle against the speedy Will Fuller and whoever other DBs Jaguars have. They're going to struggle stopping Kenny Stills, who is only getting his feet wet on this Texans offense. We saw a little glimpse of what we can do with Kenny Stills. Little end arounds. He burnt a guy deep late in the game for the go-ahead touchdown against New Orleans. That's the stuff Kenny Stills can do. And then adding Kiki QT. Kiki QT was so close to playing last week, but the Texans held him out. I expect Kiki to play this week, and the Jaguars will have no answers for him in the short passing game either. You have Duke Johnson as well. Duke Johnson, he had a few receptions last week, but again, Duke Johnson has only been here a few weeks. So Duke Johnson, the more he's here, the more we're going to open up the offense with him. So expect some passes getting thrown to Duke Johnson as well. And I just do not think the Jaguars have the players to stop Deshaun Watson and his weapons. However, Calais Campbell, Marshall Darius, Josh Allen, and Yannick Ngakoue going up against this Texans offensive line. That is a question mark right there. Deshaun can have all these awesome weapons, but if he don't have time to throw, then how can he get the ball to his awesome weapons, I expect Laramie Tunsil to completely erase Yannick Ngakoue from the game, but I'm not sure how the rest of the O-line will do up against this talented Jaguars defensive line. I think Bill O'Brien's going to have to scheme some short passes for Deshaun Watson to get rid of the ball quickly to really slow down this Jacksonville's pass rush and not let them get home to Watson. Because if they're going to be out here looking for the big play, then the Jaguars defensive line will definitely get to Watson, and you don't want that because then you'll end up being on third and long situations, and and then you'll expose Watson to getting hit even more, and we're trying to avoid that this season. However, I think it'll be relatively easy to kind of scheme up a short passing attack, especially with Duke Johnson and Kiki QT being involved. I think it'll be pretty easy to open up the middle of the field and use them, and then the Jaguars players kind of come up, try to stop that, and then you hit them deep over top, because I don't think they have the speed on the back end to cover Will Fuller, unless they put Jalen Ramsey on Will Fuller, but then you're just leaving D-Hop on AJ Boye, and D-Hop would completely abuse AJ Boye, so you don't really want that. So, in my opinion, the Jaguars defense, they couldn't stop the Chiefs offense. They won't be able to stop the Texans offense either. Now, the keys to the game, in my opinion, are this. If the Texans want to win, stop the run. You cannot let Leonard Fournette grind this game out. You can't let him, just run you over. You got to bring him down, tackle him, stop the run, minimal gains. Number 2, don't turn the ball over. This Jaguars team, they have a rookie quarterback that shouldn't really do that well. So, if you limit the turnovers, put up points, even if it's just a field goal, you'll most likely win this game. And then number 3, protect Deshaun Watson. Last week, Deshaun Watson, he dove in for a touchdown, and it's rumored he has like a bruised back or something, like lower back. So protect Deshaun Watson, don't let him get hit. Now, my prediction for this game is Texans win 33-16. I think the Jaguars will drive down the field, but I think the Texans will be able to play a bend but don't break defense, and they'll force the Jaguars to kick many field goals in this game. And like I said, I just do not see this Jaguars defense being able to stop all of Deshaun Watson's weapons. So in the end, like I said, Texans win 33-16. That's all I have for you guys for today. Comment down below your own prediction for this game. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.